When it comes to brakes, there's one thing that I really like, and I'm super pernickety about this. I like them to be absolutely rock solid, really firm, and when it comes to that bite point, they're grabby. They dig into the ground and really slow you down. But it can be really hard to actually do this. And in this video, I'm going to talk exactly about that, how to get your brakes dialed, bled, and feeling super strong. So the tools that you're going to need are a range of Allen keys, bleed system specific to your brake, some zip ties, and then some cable snips. Okay, so I can tell that the brake actually needs a little bit of attention because when I actually go up to the lever and pull the brake in itself, the lever goes straight to the grip. If I pump it a few times, then it goes rock solid again. So there's obviously some air in the system. The first thing that I'm going to do is do a full bleed of the system, but we've already got a video on how to do that, so let's get to it. So that's the brake all bled now. I've had a little bit of air actually come out of the system, so hopefully that's just cleaned the whole thing out. Got that air up towards it, but it's still not 100% firm. And this is really where my top tips are going to come in. The first thing that I want you guys to do is I want you to loosen off that caliper right here. Just tighten it so you can actually wiggle it back and forth on the brake body itself. Okay, so with that caliper loosened off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the brake lever, pump it up a few times, and I'm going to center the caliper onto the disc itself. Pulling that in, and then just going to tighten this up, and hopefully that's going to align it perfectly, because what I'm trying to do here is make sure that all the pistons are working evenly and dependent of each other. I'm going to take a look down into the brake rotor now. I can actually see that it's not quite centered, so I'm going to have to adjust this one by hand. Going to undo the bolts again, come back in, and then just do it by hand, looking right through the brake pad itself, making sure that I can see a gap between the rotor and the pads. And then once I've got that centered, I'm going to hold it down and tighten up loosely, and then do that exact same thing for the other side until I've got it perfectly. You might not get this first time, so it might just take a couple of goes. Okay, so now that we've got this centered, it's just a case of making sure that that rotor is actually running free and it's not catching on the disc pads themselves. We're looking good there, and then one final check is just squeezing that lever. We're going to make sure that they're both working evenly, and I can see straight away that they are, so we're good to get on to the next step. So before we go into really making that brake feel solid, there's one final check that I want you guys to do, is to check all these little bleed nipples, where the hose mounts onto the caliper, and also up on the brake lever that all these bolts are really tight, they're done up, and that no air can actually get into them, causing the brake to actually build up a little bit of air, and that is what's going to cause that brake to come into the bar because there's air in the system. So if you haven't already, you're going to have to put on this sort of bleed bucket right now. Now the Shimano brake takes this one, pop in a little bit of fluid. If you're running a slightly different brake, then just check out the manufacturer's recommendations. All you want to do is pop a tiny little bit of fluid, and then this is when the hack starts to happen. Okay, so now what you want to do is get that Allen key, and you're just going to start pumping the brake, pump it quite a lot, and then you're just going to go around every part of the brake, just tapping it, making sure that there's no air actually trapped behind pistons, sort of in any of the assembly part of the hose. And we're just going to do that all the way along the hose, right up to the lever, and just keep going until we start to see some little tiny air bubbles coming up through this bucket. Okay, so once you've done that a number of times, just keep going back and forth, all working all the way from the caliper right up to the lever. Make sure as well that this is one key point, you want to have that caliper below the lever, and then we're going to get onto this. And we're just going to get a zip tie it actually around the lever onto the grip. We're going to just lock that up, keep it in place, and then we're just going to do the whole procedure of just actually tapping it right from the bottom all the way up to the top again. And then we're just going to leave it for 5 minutes and go and make a brew. How are we looking? Let's cut that cable tie off and see if there are any bubbles. We're looking pretty good. What you basically want to find is that when you pump that lever, there are absolutely no bubbles coming up through the system. That ensures that it's going to be really firm, and you've actually got them all the way from down at the piston, all the way up through the lever, and it's running pretty damn clear. Okay, there we go. So some of my very favorite hacks to get the brakes feeling absolutely super strong. If you guys have got any, then please leave them in the comments down below. We love checking that stuff out. I'm going to take that off, put the cap back on, and then I'm ready to ride. Don't forget to subscribe to GMBN because you'll never miss a video again. And if you want to watch some more videos about braking, then make sure you hit down there for how to bleed your brakes, hit just there for braking effectively, and give this video a thumb up like. All that remains is to drink my tea. Oh, and if you want to get a mug, then just click up there to the shop and you'll get one just like this. Red hot.